r/askreddit. Men of Reddit, what instantly turned you off a woman? Her daughter asked her for permission to go to a friend's house. She told her daughter to ask me for permission. We had only been dating for a month, and I had only met the kid once. I had never seen a 9-year-old cringe before. That was your cue to step up with a true dad response. Ask your mother. Shit, I cringed for you and let out a Hank Hillbois. Sure. Here, take this whiskey with you. I don't care, I'm not your fucking dad, kid. Testing your commitment. Especially if they want to see if you'd fight for me. Had a girl in high school do this. We dated for a year and then she broke up with me. 3 months later I get a new GF. I had not heard from old one since breaking up with her, mind you. She calls me like 4 days into our relationship and is screaming at me for cheating on her. What? You broke up with me, I tell her. And she says no, I was testing your loyalty to see if you'd get another girl. Right away I hung up on her dumbus. She called me a few more times with similar stories of how it was all a test and I failed. Bitch, it had been 90 days without even hearing from her. Crazy. As fuck. Want to see if you'd fight for me? I'd fight for a woman in the sense that if she's being attacked by an alligator or an evil villain with a mustache, I'd fight the thing. But if a woman expects me to fight someone because she wants to test me, bitch, you're gonna get pocket sand in the face and then I'm legging it. As a woman, I can't believe anyone would think this is a good tactic for a strong, healthy relationship. I can't imagine doing this to anyone, never mind the fact it's insane. This. Dated a girl for not very long who was constantly doing stuff like this. Like for example, she'd be in the car with me and talking to a friend and say something like, oh, so anyway, I ran into. Whispered loudly, you know WHO. Yesterday. I can't tell you about it now, but let's just say I'm looking forward to next time. It was always a double trap. If I asked what was all that about, then I was controlling and had no respect for her privacy. If I didn't question it, then clearly I didn't care what she did and wasn't totally into her. After the second or third round of this nonsense I bailed. Breaking up with me. I'm sorry, but if you dump me, that's it. Relationship over. I was in a relationship that over the course of 3 years we had broken up twice and both times were more her idea than mine. The final time we broke up I refused to take her back and she got upset with me saying that we got back together the first 2 times so I would have to take her back this time. She got mad at me saying that it wasn't fair because she didn't want it to be over. I just looked at her and said, well, sometimes breakups are one-sided. Seeing her treat her parents like doormats. Or seeing her treat anyone like doormats. My cat and her dog didn't get along. She said I'd have to choose between her and her dog or the cat. I picked cat. She cried. It was the second date. Bye bye ye. My cat and her dog didn't get along. I'm surprised you knew this bit of information on the second date. I could see if you both had dogs and met at the park or something. But how does your cat meet her dog? Well done. Well done. I've got 2 dogs and I would never expect anyone to choose between me and their pet. And if someone made me choose between my dogs or them, I'd nope the fuck out of there too. My second date with this one girl was going to a Christmas party of a mutual friend. After we were there for a little while, she started talking to this other guy and they went to some corner where no one else could interrupt them and talked for an hour. When they were done talking, she immediately told me she was leaving and up and bounced. Totally turned me off, so I didn't talk to her again for a while. A month later she reached out and was like, why haven't you called me? I was kind of dumbfounded that she would actually ask. I didn't have anything else going on at the time, so I figured we could try again. But the Christmas party left such a bad taste in my mouth I couldn't even feign interest. This is what my co-worker did to me. Asked me out. We went out. She danced with other dudes and then came back to the table with 2 drinks and set them down and started drinking. I assumed the other one was for me and took a swig. She looked annoyed at me and asked me if that was mine. Then she looked exasperated and came back with another drink and explained to me she was trying to pick up this dude and took her 2 drinks over to some guy's table. I gathered my shit to leave and she stopped me before I hit the door, saying that if this guy didn't want to take her home she would need a ride. Still I just nodded and left. Stopped talking to her altogether. Later on she wrote me a note saying stuff like why haven't we followed up and I thought we liked each other and so on. She couldn't understand why I lost interest in her. Lol, I don't think she cares that she turned you off. She found someone she liked more. When that fell through, she was trying to take you back as her backup. Some girl I was dating picked a ride with an ex just because he lived closer than I. She was upset because I didn't talk to her again. She told me she expected me to text her good morning every single morning before her. The bitch got up at 6 every day and I don't get up till 8. Fuck off, that is horse shit. Is there a way you could automate that? Told her friend in public that my mom was stupid and made fun of her for 20 minutes. She didn't know my mother's friend was sitting next to her in the restaurant and heard the whole thing. We were in college and in a different town, which made the whole experience for her that much more unfortunate. I was done, particularly because my mom was nothing but the kindest person to her and made every effort to make her feel welcome when she visited. Damn, fuck that chick. Not literally though. Good lord, sounds like you dodged a bullet with that one. I had a girlfriend recently. Only lasted about 7 months. And this is one of the reasons I, in the end, couldn't stand her. Every time she talked about something and I thought she finished speaking and I started to speak, she continued speaking but in slightly louder tone as if I rudely interrupted her. And if I happened to do it again, she just went from loud to louder. Her speaking pattern was filled with pauses, so it was very easy to mistake one of those pauses for a finished sentence. Love the way you changed the font for the tone. Made me giggle as I got the picture in my head. Yeah, someone who is not conversationally generous is a complete turn off. It's like the kid in play school who never learned to share. Conversation is something two people create together, with give and take. Sadly, some people only know how to take. And that spills over into all aspects of the relationship eventually. We were both 20, hanging out at her nice apartment. She casually, proudly told me she had a sugar daddy, a married guy I knew, and loathed. Lumbug. Not being able to stay off your phone. I'm on a date to talk to you, not watch you track your followers. It's amazing to me how many people think this is okay. I've actually been out with a girl who was actively tracking her online dating while we were on the date. Noped right out of that one. That bothers me so much. Like, I can understand pulling it out once or twice. I always do, just to let someone know I'm alright, but I don't get why people think it's okay. Why would you put someone who literally made actual time for you to text someone who isn't there? Saying how my major isn't manly enough. I'm in nursing school BTW, and love it. Edit. Wow, was not expecting this to be upvoted so much. Thank you all for your support. I hope to become an amazing nurse someday. Hopefully either ICU or surgery, but I would love to do travel nursing too. Well, she's a twat. I had a friend of the family that was a brute of a man. Owned a boxing gym and was a Golden Gloves champ. He was built like a fucking brick house. If seen on the street you would be intimidated. A man most men wouldn't screw with. He went to nursing school. Stay the course, brother, it's one of the most important jobs on the planet. OMG, that messed up. Being a male nurse is nothing to be ashamed of, and caring for other people is probably the manliest thing you can ever do in life. I have an accent. So anyone who is way too into that gets the boot pretty quickly. I once walked out on a date because she spent 30 minutes trying to impersonate me and couldn't understand why I didn't think it was endearing. One of TH things that stood out to me about my BF was when I met his friends for the first time and they were all surprised that I'm an Aussie. I feel like most guys would brag about it. The place I was living at the time was quite small and basically everyone would introduce me as the Australian. I would have Randers come up to me at work and say, "So you're the hot Aussie, I've heard about you," etc. So when I realized that he hadn't even mentioned it when he was telling them about me, I definitely swooned a little bit. As someone with a southern accent, I know the feeling. I lived in CT for 2 years and had someone from Boston making fun of my accent. Get yakakis and get out of here. When she thought the appropriate response to me saying something she didn't agree with was a slap across the face. She had gotten into a fight with her friend because of something she was completely in the wrong about. I made the mistake of calling her out on it. I have a strong policy on this. A girl gets one warning not to face slap me again. If it ever happens again, I walk right the fuck out of the situation and never speak to them again. I don't give a flying fuck if it's in jest or not that hard. I had one relationship where I literally became a black and blue punching bag, and another where the I'm joking slaps left my face sore for days. They both started out playful and quickly progressed to abusive, and that's not a fucking game. I don't hit you in the face for any reason. You do not hit me in the face for any reason. I don't give a shit how angry you are. When they complain about me being friends with other girls, yay, like I'm gonna cut out every woman in my life just because you're too insecure with yourself. The ironic moment when the girl who complains about you being friends with other girls is also friends with a load of guys as well, but sees no problem in that makes it so much worse. This one is honestly kind of tricky, and while you should never drop friends while you're in a relationship, it's understandable for people to want you to change your habits. I had a buddy who had a lot of friends who were girls, and some of them he honestly told me he would love to bang if he got the opportunity. He'd spend the night, go over to their houses alone, go out to eat, etc. Then he got the girlfriend he knew for a few months prior, and after they became official, a month later she said she wasn't comfortable with him hanging out with girls alone if it wasn't in public. Now she didn't know he had been interested in these girls beforehand, so he played the "but they're my friends and we hang out all the time." To me, accountability is important. Even if he wasn't planning on cheating or thought he never would, mistakes can happen, and it's important to make sure your partner feels safe, within reason. I wouldn't do anything I wouldn't want my girl doing. Having male friends? Sure. Going to a party where guys will be present? Of course. Hanging out with a guy at his house, just the two of you, or a guy coming to our house while I'm not home? I probably wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I know a lot of people are different, which is why discussing these things and determining what's okay is important. Had a girl I dated and we were pretty into each other. One day she got extremely upset with me for saying something pretty innocuous because it reminded her of something from her past. I said I'd remember not to bring that up in the future and apologized, though that didn't seem to suffice. It appeared I was to be punished or treated poorly for it. I asked if I could get a pass on this as there was no way I could have known what I said would have bothered her, but no. I asked her if there was anything else that really set her off like this and she said yes, though I'd have to find out on my own. I asked if there was anything I could do in the future to avoid upsetting her or causing one of these situations, and again she angrily said no. I was getting a little perturbed by this point and asked if she was really blaming me for saying something harmless that I had absolutely no idea would set her off that way, and she said yes. So I tried to reason with her one last time. So you're telling me that there is a minefield out there? That you know where all the mines are but refuse to tell me? And that if I step on one of these and it goes off, it is my fault and I should be punished as a result? Indeed she did. We were supposed to go out for supper, but I told her I wasn't hungry, got in my car and went home. If you're going to create the path and conditions of failure for our relationship, you can trust that I will find a shortcut every time. I've been there, but I chose to walk the field. I know better now. You're smart for not choosing to try and make it work. Instant clinginess. We went out, had a great date and some light fun at her place. She called me the next day while I was out with a friend. I didn't answer. She then called me over and over again until I finally answered. We're talking about 10-15 calls in a row, and when I answered I asked if anything was wrong. Since she kept calling, she said no and said she just hates texting and prefers talking on the phone. I had to calmly explain to her I was out with a friend and if I don't answer, I will call you back, but calling me over and over makes me think it's an emergency. We tried one more date, but at that point it was awkward and I was no longer invested. Also had one girl text me over 130 times in one day after one date. It was worse because we worked at the same place, albeit different departments. It surprised me. In both cases I thought they were out of my league. My man, you were out of their league. I was on a date where she was really mean to the waiter for a stupid reason, like not enough ice in her cocktail or something, I forget exactly. All of the feelings just evaporated. He's just a waiter. I was on a date with a girl who did this. She was a waitress also. I couldn't fucking believe it. Bad attitudes. Met a girl online once. She seemed cool, met her in person and she immediately starts off, "This is the kind of Mustang you drive," and I'm not exaggerating, she said it as rudely as possible. So I asked her to get out and she refused. "Fuck that, you owe me a movie. We are going to see a movie." Shitty car or not, I had to throw her purse out the window to get her the fuck out of my car. Edit. It was a 96 GT. It was a shitty Mustang, but that's besides the point. That's just bad manners and this lady drove a goddamn Geo. E2. Jesus 310 upvotes. Not sure if you guys just like Mustangs or if the story was that good. I'm humbled. Have a good day y'all. I've been rejected or dissed for shitty cars and nice cars. When I drove older, uninteresting cars, it was a turn off for many. When I drove snappy, luxury cars, it was a turn off for others. I really don't have any interest in being judged for my car either way. I thought maybe we could try an open relationship. After I caught her fucking one of my friends. Wait, she legit thought that card would work after getting caught? What the fuck yo? Smoking. This. Dated a smoker back in high school. Nice girl, but she left a bad taste in my mouth. Bad breath and bad hygiene. 110%. Was fooling around with a girl in my car when she takes her pants off and this strong sharp smell just came emanating out of her vagina. Quickly dropped her off. Picked up my ex the next morning and she asked why my car smelled like stale Chinese food. This. She looked decent enough, but I couldn't get past the smell. Calling her university teachers retarded after 30 minutes on our first date. She could not take the test because she did not show up a couple of times and thought it was her professor's duty to tell her in advance. Well, read the damn syllabus. You're not in high school anymore. She told me all her elaborate plans of getting him fired. After I told her she was in the wrong, she got mad. $100 says she never finished college. Desperation. It's a common internet meme for men to be desperate and scare women away. Let me tell you, it happens the other way as well. I met a girl online who was pretty, had a good job, kind, generous, and was overall a solid catch. The problem she had was that she was way too desperate to find a partner. I'm not even saying she was the kind of girl who had the relationship mapped out in stages. That is, date 8 months, married in 16 months, kids by 24 months. Those girls exist, too. But this girl was just desperate for a partner. She was pursuing the idea of coming home to her partner, cooking him dinner, making him lunch, sitting on the couch in sweats eating popcorn. Basically, she was in love with the idea of being in love. All those things are great goals for a relationship that you can aspire to over time. Not so much something to pursue or dream of on the first or second date. I was in a long-term relationship with someone like this and it hurt when I realized she didn't really like me that much. It was just that she really wanted to be in a relationship. I'm glad I figured it out before we got married, which she was pushing for after 18 months. Ever since then I've been really cautious of people who are moving too fast or just seem to like the idea of being part of a relationship no matter who their partner is. She told me she was going after her ex for a certain amount of money. That on its own was not the problem. The money she wanted was the $500 in shared living expenses she contributed over the 7 years they were together. She wanted every penny back. She thought that as long as they stayed together, then the contribution made sense. But if they broke up, then she got to live for free, retroactively. Food, mortgage, utilities. All of it. So she was contributing maybe 25% of the overall living expenses. But because he made 60-80k a year and she made 30-40k a year, she shouldn't have to pay a single dime of those shared living expenses over the years they were together. Unless of course they stayed together. If she had done some calculation to figure out how much of that $500 went toward the principal on the mortgage, and wanted that back, I'd have agreed, 100%. But no. She expected her man to pay 100% for all share living expenses. I had been dating her for a couple of weeks and broke it off a week or so later. Edit. Sorry guys, that's $500 per month over 7 years. So she wanted $500 x 12 x 7 equals $42,000. Entitlement. As in, I deserve special treatment every day of my life cause I'm so beautiful, makes me want to bath. no matter how pretty they are. Ugh. An ex once told me, I guess as a joke in her mind, that she thought she was too pretty for me. That was the last straw there. Laziness. Work 2 bullshit jobs so ends can meet and she stays home reading fanfiction for Supernatural and Twilight crossovers all day. No chores, no cooking, cleaning, just fanfiction and trash producing. Kinda killed my interest fast. Why the fuck would you live with that? Isolating me away from my friends and yelling at me when I hung out with them. Sense of entitlement and wanting me to be something I wasn't. She always had to have her way and I basically couldn't have a different opinion without getting in trouble. I had a slightly less terrible version of this. But the minute you feel you need to walk on eggshells around her, it's essentially over. When she got drunk, turned super angry towards me, then defended herself and didn't remember it the next day. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Da fuck outta here with that noise. She bragged about banging a married guy, then realized I was disgusted, tried to backpedal by saying, he was the asshole, I was single, man, which just made it worse. You're both culpable. A bad smell or body odor. I remember hooking up with a girl who I felt was totally out of my league. Things got heated, and I remember flipping her over to make fuck doggy style, and a strong stench wave of ass flooded over me. Like I know ass will smell a little bit, but this was like 4 poops, poor wiping, and no shower for a couple days type of ass smell. Nothing killed my erection or sex drive quicker than that smell. I made up something dumb about being tired or having a headache, and left. Even to this day, I have a bit of an aversion to doggy because of how bad the smell was. Did he just say making fug? I imagine it was worse than you say. When you are aroused you detect bad smells less. Light misandry. You're a man. Boys don't. If you were a real man. Giving ultimatums. And having too many rules that will never apply to her if I play the reverse card. Basically a total cunt move. Girl I was seeing before made me choose between her and my friends. Bitch wasn't even there in my direst of need, but had the gall to restrict my friends from seeing or visiting, taking me out for a little night out. Girlfriend got drunk and started dancing, grinding, with another dude at a club. Ended the relationship. She didn't know what she did wrong. Definite turn off. She started talking about exterminating Muslims. That was a bit of a boner killer. Entitlement. Unintelligent. You don't need to be a genius or super educated, but a girl who doesn't have a real opinion or foundation of knowledge about anything other than herself is a hard no. Don't care if you're an Instagram model. Whatever that means. Pass. Next. I just want one day without being asked to buy something. We literally met each other 2 days ago and I wouldn't text her while I was at work the following day, so she had a meltdown and her mom started texting me asking what I did wrong. Didn't even know this girl at all. Edit. I was 19 at the time and this girl was 18. I work with her at a retail store. Anyways, she messaged me on a Monday mornings like 7. We started talking and whatnot and she FaceTimed me out of nowhere. So we FT for an hour or so, then I had to go to work. Later that day she came and sat with me on my lunch break and the vibe was off. I didn't really feel a connection, so I just was being more of a friend. The next day a co-worker comes up to me and says, so I hear you and are talking. I said I don't even know her last name. Co-worker starts laughing. The girl texted me later that night and says, so I guess this means we're talking since co-worker knows I relied I don't even know your last name, and that set her off apparently, cause 5 minutes later she replies, but it's her mom asking what I did wrong because the girl is having a meltdown. I met her Monday morning and by Tuesday evening I blocked contact. A girl once asked to see the length of my penis before going out. I said no and left. That could have been the easiest blowjob of your life. All looks and no brain attention seeking to the point of accusing you for choosing your education job, saying that you don't actually care for her, constantly having to prove your manliness. Could be just me. Girls who put themselves down for a compliment. Things like I'm so ugly or I'm so fat, even if they aren't. Then when you say otherwise they just keep saying it. You can't win. We were in college together. She was pretty with long red hair and dressed like a model. She liked to take walks in snowstorms and sing old Irish songs. She would wink at me while we were in a crowd when she was bullshitting someone else. She would sometimes ask me, weirdly, if I thought that she were a bad person. I always said, no, of course not. Then one evening as I was standing with her in line at the checkout desk of the library, she referred to the classmate in front of us as a dumb N-word. It felt like the blood instantly drained out of me. I looked at her and she winked at me the old way. I stuttered and said that I had forgotten one last book, but instead of climbing the stairs again, I made my way through the library and out into the night, feeling soiled by her words. I ran through the dark to my rooming house a mile away but still felt bad. We never dated again. Why did you do that, Hope? Why? The way she treated others was absolutely terrible. If I'm dating a woman and she hasn't even reached for her purse to offer to throw in a few bucks or cover the tip by the third date, she's officially in my hit it and quit it file. It's 2019, ladies. Time to rise up. Playing hard to get. Fuck that shit. If you're interested, act like it. I'm not playing games. Not being honest. I got led on by an ex for a month. I also ended up sitting in the airport for 12 hours. All because you can't tell me the truth. She unplugged my life support, which literally turned me off. I am a ghost now. TLDR, girl talks about herself constantly. I was talking to this girl I met on Tinder for about a few weeks or so. Our conversations were typically one-sided. I would just ask her questions about her, get to know her a little bit. Our conversations would usually spark from there. But after a couple weeks, I realized she didn't know a thing about me because she never asked. Like what my major is in school, why I pursue that degree, what my brother's name is, trivial stuff. I then told her I forgot my suit at the dry cleaners one day and had to wait until the next week to pick it up. I told her it was for an interview. Instead of saying something like, oh, what's your interview for? What company you know? Usual curious questions. I had mentioned it was for an interview quite a few times, just like enticing her to ask me about it. But then she proceeded to tell me a long ass story about how she forgot some shit at some store and had to drive back there to get it. I really got annoyed and just left her alone. She always made things about herself. 8 months into my relationship, I learned that my ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend was a married guy she had met on Tinder. His then wife. They had a threesome. Afterwards my ex-GF developed a crush on the dude, convinced the guy to leave his wife after 6 months, ruining his 20-year marriage, and then she dumped him, because on her words he was too monotone. Naturally, she cheated on me not long after. I can't complain. I had been given all the warnings. Now that I think about it,